So in this video, I'm going to be talking about spirit rescue. Now, when I'm planning my videos, I use what's happening in my life to identify a topic. And spirit rescue and the work that I do has come up lots of discussions in the last couple of weeks, which is usually a prompt for me to pay attention to it. Now, I did and ah about whether or not I wanted to do this video because it's such a sensitive topic and it's a process that I believe is sacred. But I did check in with my guides and they said it was time for such a video, so here it is. Now, my involvement with spirit work happened quite by chance. I didn't go looking for it, it kind of came looking for me. It was early in the year 2000 and I was invited to sit in a small closed spirit rescue circle. Now, a closed circle is one that you have to be invited into after all the circle members have agreed to permit the person to join. And I was incredibly flattered, but I admit now that at the time I had no clue what spirit rescue was. I hadn't really thought about earthbound or stuck spirits much at all. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into. So my experience with spirit before sitting in this circle was what I like to describe as pink and fluffy. So it's those spirits who want to pass a message on to a loved one. They're happy and they're friendly. Never in my wildest imagination could I have been able to predict that the decision to accept the invitation would take me on a journey that was exhilarating and at times emotionally exhausting, challenging, but fulfilling. Neither would I have thought that this would be work that I would continue to do all these years later. So I'm told that spirit rescue is work that not everybody takes to, and I can understand that because there have been times over the years that I felt like stepping back, particularly in the early years. But I've learned so much, and I feel that spirit rescue is an important aspect of the work that I do. It's like an old friend, really. Now, the circle was led by an experienced spirit rescue medium. We'd sit on a weekly basis with the intention to assist wayward spirits. According to the group of rescue mediums, we shine a bright beacon of light which attracts spirits to them. And this fact allowed us to do the work from the comfort of the living room of the lead medium. And this is called remote rescue. So after a prayer and some meditation, we'd invite our guides to step forward. We'd create a linked circle. And then we'd light the beacon. And by lighting the beacon, I mean we set our intention and raised our vibration. Now, much to my initial surprise, spirits did come. They were spirits who were indeed stuck in the vibration of the earth plane. Now, we'd spend a couple of hours each week identifying those spirits that required help. And our process included finding out more about the circumstances that resulted in them being grounded, and then identifying those that wanted help before working with the spirit directly to help them. So for the first year, my role in the circle was really just support, kind of bringing energy and a loving vibration to the process. The lead medium and the other more experienced mediums in the circle led the rescues. They were the primary connection to the spirit and the ones who opened the gateway and held the integrity of the circle. Now, I was very inexperienced at the start and I couldn't always manage to connect with the spirit as clearly as was needed for this process. So I was asked to maintain the link in the circle and to send love to the spirit. Now, the lead mediums were really very good at providing kind of a blow-by-blow account of what they were seeing, what was being said and what they were feeling. And they would share the spirit story with me. And there were so many stories. Now, over time, I found that I was able to connect with the spirit in a clearer way. And then I was able to more actively participate in the process. And I found that both my clairvoyant and my clairsentient abilities were growing. Now, after a year of sitting in the circle, I was allowed to take on a lead role for the rescues, always supported by my fellow mediums, but I was guided to the point that I was able to undertake the rescue myself. It's kind of hard to articulate the process that we used, but I'll try. Now, the first thing that I want to say is that this process was taught to me and I use it to this day. However, I am sure that there are many variations of the process and they'll be as equally valid approaches. And the second thing that I want to say is that The vast majority of transitions happen successfully and are beautiful. So I don't want you to worry that your loved one is grounded or stuck. It's highly unlikely. So please set any concern aside that you have on this matter. Now, the key foundational piece of a spirit rescue are to make a connection with the spirit and to find out what might be holding them to the earth. And the reasons are wide and varied, and they can include unfinished business, fear and confusion. For some spirits, they choose to stay physically focused, which is their decision. Now, I found that in some cases, the simple act of seeking to understand the story of the spirit is really enough for them to make their transition. They kind of simply just let go of the hold that they have on the physical and they re-emerge into non-physical, often with a pleasant little plop. And I actually do hear what sounds like a cork popping when they go. Now, not every rescue is as easy as that. Some spirits require time and dialogue. It's about developing a relationship of trust. And for some, even after all that, they resist considering making their transition. Now, I was taught that spirit rescue is only performed at the agreement of the spirit. Now, not every rescue medium shares this view, but it was and it is one of the foundational things that has to be in place for me to move forward. If a spirit is unwilling, despite the time taken to persuade them otherwise, I don't proceed. I don't force spirits out. Again, there are practitioners who do, but this isn't what I do, because it doesn't sound like rescue to me otherwise. Now, when I started this journey, I had lots of questions about the process and why spirits get lost. My gatekeeper guide, who works with me in all my paranormal work, was patient and he helped me to have a better understanding. His name is Septimus and he's been with me from the very early days of my mediumship. And he is a précis of the many conversations that I've had with him over the years. So spirit rescue is a matter of vibration. At the point of transition, there's a vibrational shift that happens that allows for a refocus from the physical to the non-physical. If that shift doesn't happen, then they don't fully re-emerge into non-physical. It's like they're still facing the physical realm and simply can't see the non-physical one. This is why there needs to be people like me to assist in the process. Higher beings are trying to make themselves known to the spirit, but they really can't hear or feel them. And it requires someone who's more physically focused, who can shift their vibration sufficiently to be the conduit. Now, the big aha moment for me was when we talked about physical and non-physical. Now, we describe it like an either or. You're either physical or non-physical, and that isn't the reality of things. We're both at the same time. We're physical and we're non-physical. My question to Septimus had come from some of the material that I'd been listening to. Many of you will be aware of the teachings of Abraham, and I've been a student of their work for at least 15 years or more. Now, they'd been talking about what they call the broader aspect of ourselves that remain non-physical. And when we choose to have a physical life, a part of the whole is used to kind of animate the human body. This immediately resonated with me, but it really got me questioning my spirit rescue work. If the largest part of the spirit was already non-physical, what was I in fact rescuing? So it was explained to me in this way. Our relationship with this bigger aspect of ourselves, maybe we call it the soul, the spirit, the higher self, or the universe, well, it can become distant. Our life experiences may result in us moving farther and farther away from remembering who we really are. I kind of imagine it like an elastic, and the more that you stretch it, the less it becomes springy, and over time it loses its elasticity. So when somebody makes their transition, there isn't enough kind of spring back to bring them home. So that piece that was given us life kind of remains in the non-physical. It's just an aspect of the whole energy that remains. So when I perform spirit rescue, I'm in fact re-holing the energy, allowing it to re-emerge into the non-physical and rejoin the whole. So I'm spirit re-holing, and I hope that makes sense to you. So the process I use is to create a circle. It's best done with a group of mediums, as they can help to hold the integrity of the light needed. The group invites spirit to step into the circle. Sometimes this takes some time, as the spirit can be unsure. But once they're inside, I can instruct the group to send love into the circle and reassuring words and energy. Our desire is to remind them who they really are, and that they are pure, positive, loving energy. And when I feel kind of a shift in the vibration of the spirit, I can open up a doorway for them. And I see this very literally. It always opens up on my right. It looks like a stage door with a couple of steps up. Everywhere is black at first, but you can see kind of a light around the cracks of the doorway. But once I open it up, it's bright white light flooding the space. And I try and encourage the spirit to turn around and to face the doorway. Now, some are reluctant at first, but I know when they get to feel the white light on themselves, they'll feel the pull to go home very strongly, and the transition can happen quickly after that. Now, some are more reluctant and unsure, but when they're ready, one of two things happen. Either they gently drift towards the door and go through it, or they ping in, almost like they're sucked in. It's always a joyous occasion, and one that I feel in my entire body very viscerally, and I'll talk about that in a moment. Now, sometimes I get to see their people waiting for them. For the most part, they stay in the doorway, but on occasion I have seen a family member come out of the door, go down the steps and over to the spirit, taking them by their hand and leading them through. And when spirit has transitioned successfully, I feel an energetic wave rush through my body. So it starts at my toes and it whooshes up my entire body and out the top of my head. I call it my psychic orgasm, and I know the rescue has been successful when that happens. If I don't feel it, then I know that they're still here. Even though I may not be able to perceive them, we've kind of lost our connection and link. Once gone, I close the door and place a symbol on it to signify it is done. And then I close the circle. As I mentioned earlier, this work can be exhilarating, but it can also be draining, frustrating and challenging. Not every spirit is kind and gentle. Some really just want to mess with you. Some want to pretend that they're agreeing and want to be helped. And some have negative intentions. Some are confused to the point that it's difficult to get through to them. So leading a spirit rescue circle and holding the integrity of it for what sometimes can be a protracted amount of time can be depleting, which is why it's good to have a group of strong mediums who can aid energy in support of the process and to watch your back. So as I mentioned earlier, when you sit in a spirit rescue circle, it's classed as remote rescue work, meaning that you're not in the location where the spirit is, where they died or where they hang around. Now, location-based rescues are the opposite, because those are where you're in the location where the spirit is or where they did pass over. Both are effective, as energy is energy, and you really don't need to leave the comfort of your armchair, but sometimes it's nice to go out into the field. Spirit rescue can be an individual or it can be a group of spirits, and I've encountered both. Most of the time it's a single spirit, but for some it's a group rescue, and these can be tiring depending upon the number and their energy. And here's a couple of examples. So I was in a location and identified two spirits that needed to be rescued. I'd established a connection, I'd got their agreement, and I'd opened up the circle. Now, they went through really, really quickly and easily. And then there was a huge lineup. Each person stepped in, and as they did, the energy of the circle got more intense, one after another, and the beacon was becoming hard to hold. Now, it got to the point that spirits were literally running and jumping into the circle and getting kind of, whooshed away. It was mind-blowing, but it was also pretty scary, as I hadn't encountered this before, and the integrity of the circle was getting away from me. So I did shut it down, but you needn't worry about the remaining spirits, as work was done with them later and all is well in that location. But I learned some very valuable lessons that day. Now, a similar thing happened at the Maritime Museum of BC in Victoria. I opened up a spirit rescue circle thinking I was only doing it for one spirit, and then there was a lineup. This time it was a bit more orderly and I was able to rescue about 12 spirits that evening. One after another they stepped in and they were gone. I think that the work I and others do as rescue mediums is really important. However, it's work that can impact us and it shouldn't be taken lightly. The spirits we connect with can be troubled and have life experiences that they want to share that are difficult to hear. We hold space for them, but it can be depleting. And then there are those spirits that are more negative in nature, who look to utilise the process for their own gain. Literally, while our backs are turned, they try to sneak into our energy field. And when you're engaged in spirit rescue, you're very open, and that's why psychic protection is essential. However, nothing is foolproof, and just recently I opened a spirit rescue circle up for a group. Now, it was taxing for me to hold the circle, and I did get depleted pretty quickly. At my most vulnerable, a spirit tried to attach themselves to me. I closed the circle down and I knew he was there trying to burrow in, trying not to be noticed. Now, I was lucky as I had a very experienced medium with me and she took charge and she helped me to get rid of him. But it just goes to show that even after all my years of experience doing this work, there's more learning for me to do. Now I want to talk about spirits who help us in the process. I always work with my guides, and in particular my gatekeeper guide, who usually stands at my back when I'm doing this type of work. Now, the experience that I just mentioned was a little different, as he was working to help the large group of spirits into the circle, so he was kind of to the side and otherwise occupied, which did allow the negative spirit to sneak in. Now, you will have guides, we all do, and I encourage you to develop a strong relationship with them, particularly if you are being called to do this work. Other things that you'll need in place are proper ways to open up and close down. Rescue mediums who are fully open all of the time, they get inundated with spirit. So closing down and only opening up when you're working is really important. You'll also need a regular practice of grounding and cleansing your energy. Without it, this work will have a negative impact on your health and your well-being. And don't attempt to do this work if you're sick or you're tired. My final piece of advice is this: you're not responsible for rescuing every spirit that comes your way. Now, this was a thing that I struggled with for many years. I felt a heightened sense of responsibility for rescuing as many spirits as I could. But just because I could, it didn't mean that I should. And I've learned that I'm not responsible, nor am I capable of doing it all. I'm far more discerning now, and I listen to my intuition about situations. And if a spirit rescue isn't the right thing to do for me, I put me first, and in doing this, I'm far more successful and able to assist. So there you have it, a short overview of my spirit rescue work and how I got started in it. Now, if you're called to do this work, that's amazing, but do know that whilst it's rewarding, it can be depleting in many ways, so please look after yourself. And remember, there are many ways in which an intuitive or a medium can support spirit and the people that we share this planet with. And this might not be the right path for you. It doesn't have to look any one way. Find the path that's right for you, but always come from love. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do consider subscribing and hit the bell so that you're notified when a new video is uploaded. Please do ask questions in the comments, as I love to read and answer them. Ta-ta for now.